Female infidelity is often judged but rarely understood. Beneath the surface of betrayal lies a storm of emotions, loneliness, neglect, and the quiet ache of feeling unseen. Many women don't cheat out of desire or malice, but because something vital inside them has gone silent. In a world that glorifies independence yet starves emotional intimacy, their actions become a desperate attempt to feel alive, desired, and significant once more. To understand why women cheat is not to excuse them, but to confront the fragile realities of love, connection, and unmet human needs. Number 1. The influence of boredom and the lack of novelty. Long-term relationships, no matter how strong they once were, often fall into a predictable rhythm. Work, children, responsibilities, and the same routine that repeats day after day. What initially felt exciting and full of passion gradually turns into stability, and then slowly into monotony. For many women, this slow emotional decay becomes unbearable. They begin to feel invisible, trapped in a cycle that no longer stimulates their mind or heart. The husband may still love them, provide for the family, and fulfill his duties, yet the emotional spark, that feeling of being desired and alive, fades away. Over time, this emotional numbness creates a void that routine alone cannot fill. The woman who once felt vibrant, spontaneous, and romantic begins to see herself as a caretaker or a worker rather than a partner. She may start asking herself painful questions. Is this all there is? Or, have I lost the woman I used to be? When these thoughts persist, she starts craving excitement, danger, and emotional renewal, the same feelings she once had when love was new. Psychologically, humans are wired to seek novelty. Our brains release dopamine when we experience something new or unpredictable. In long-term relationships, however, predictability replaces uncertainty, and with it, the chemical spark that fuels desire slowly disappears. Women who tend to connect emotionally before physically begin to feel disconnected from their partners. Without emotional stimulation, even the most loyal person can feel tempted by the idea of rediscovering that lost passion elsewhere. In many cases, the woman doesn't cheat because she hates her husband or wants to destroy the relationship. Rather, she cheats to feel alive again. The affair becomes a forbidden space where she can temporarily escape her ordinary identity, not a wife, not a mother, not an employee, but a woman who is desired, admired, and exciting. This emotional revival can feel intoxicating, even addictive. It's not necessarily about sex. It's about reclaiming lost parts of herself that the routine of daily life has buried. It's important to understand that boredom doesn't appear overnight. It builds slowly, through years of neglecting emotional intimacy, communication, and playfulness. Many men mistakenly assume that providing financially or avoiding conflict is enough to maintain love. But what women often need is emotional attention, curiosity, and a sense of shared adventure. Without these, affection turns into obligation, and closeness becomes distance. In essence, female infidelity born out of boredom is not an act of malice, but a symptom of emotional starvation. It's a silent scream for renewal, passion, and emotional recognition. When women cheat under these circumstances, they are not running away from love. They are running toward a version of themselves they once knew, but lost somewhere along the way. Number 2, the impact of social circles and modern cultural influence. Human behavior is profoundly shaped by the environment, and for many women, the people they surround themselves with have a silent yet powerful influence on their decisions. In today's interconnected world, ideas spread faster than ever before. not only through personal friendships, but also through social media, entertainment, and cultural trends. When a woman's social circle begins to normalize or even glamorize infidelity, her moral boundaries start to blur. What was once considered a clear act of betrayal may gradually be reframed as a personal choice or an emotional necessity. In many modern societies, concepts such as follow your heart, you only live once, and self-love before everything dominate conversations about happiness and relationships. While these ideas can empower individuals to value themselves, they can also be misinterpreted as permission to abandon commitment whenever it becomes inconvenient. This cultural shift places emotional satisfaction above loyalty, turning fidelity into something optional rather than sacred. Women are particularly vulnerable to these influences because modern culture often sends them conflicting messages. On one hand, they are told to be devoted partners and nurturing mothers. On the other, they are encouraged to put themselves first and never settle for less than they deserve. When emotional needs are unmet in their relationship, these contradictory ideals can make infidelity appear not as a moral failure, but as a form of self-liberation. A woman may rationalize her actions by thinking, "I deserve to feel loved again," or "I'm not doing anything wrong if it makes me happy." Peer influence can further intensify this mindset. Imagine a group of friends where one or two openly discuss secret affairs or promote the idea that everyone cheats eventually. In such an environment, infidelity loses its stigma and becomes a topic of amusement or even empowerment. Social validation, especially from those who share similar frustrations, can provide emotional justification for behavior that would otherwise be condemned. The more a woman hears these ideas, the easier it becomes to silence her guilt and follow the crowd's logic. Social media also amplifies these dynamics. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, or dating apps often glorify individual freedom and instant gratification. Constant exposure to images of perfect lives and passionate affairs creates unrealistic comparisons, making ordinary relationships seem dull in contrast. When a woman constantly sees others flaunting excitement, beauty, and emotional attention, she may subconsciously start to crave the same, even if it means breaking her own principles. Ultimately, the modern cultural environment doesn't directly cause women to cheat, but it creates a fertile psychological ground for it. By romanticizing self-fulfillment and trivializing consequences, it gives infidelity a seductive disguise, not as betrayal, but as empowerment. What begins as curiosity or emotional dissatisfaction can evolve into justification, and eventually into action. Number 3. Revenge. After a husband's infidelity. When a husband cheats, the emotional devastation it causes can be profound. For many women, betrayal by the person they trusted most feels like the ultimate humiliation, a wound that cuts through both heart and identity. In this state of pain and disbelief, some women turn to infidelity, not out of desire, but out of revenge. They want their partner to experience the same agony, the same helplessness that they endured. Cheating, in this context, becomes a form of emotional retaliation, an attempt to restore power after feeling powerless. For these women, their husband's betrayal destroys not only trust, but also self-worth. They begin to question everything. Am I not enough? Or, why did he choose someone else? The affair he had becomes a reflection of their perceived inadequacy, even when they've done nothing wrong. This psychological wound festers, creating an emotional imbalance that seeks correction. To them, being unfaithful in return feels like reclaiming lost dignity, a way of saying, I can hurt you the same way you hurt me. This kind of revenge is rarely premeditated. It often emerges from emotional exhaustion. After countless arguments, tears, and failed apologies, a woman may reach a breaking point. She might think, if he can do it and move on like nothing happened, why can't I? Her affair then becomes a symbolic act, not to find love elsewhere, but to express the pain words can no longer communicate. For a brief moment, she feels equal again, no longer the victim. However, this sense of empowerment is fleeting. The thrill of revenge quickly fades, replaced by guilt and inner conflict. What initially feels like justice often turns into deeper emptiness. The relationship, already fragile, becomes even more damaged. In many cases, both partners now feel betrayed, and the chance for reconciliation diminishes further. The woman who sought relief discovers that the satisfaction of revenge cannot heal betrayal. It only mirrors it. Psychologically, this reaction is understandable. Humans seek emotional balance when hurt. When someone breaks trust, the betrayed person often tries to even the score to regain control. But revenge-driven infidelity doesn't repair broken trust. It replaces one form of pain with another. What women truly want in these moments is not to hurt their husbands, but to make them understand the depth of the suffering they caused. Ultimately, cheating as revenge is a cry for acknowledgement, not love from someone else, but recognition from the one who betrayed them. It's an act born from grief, not desire. Yet while it may provide temporary power, it also reinforces the same emotional damage that caused the pain in the first place. True healing can only begin when the cycle of revenge ends and both partners confront the underlying wounds with honesty and empathy. Number 4, when the past relationship never truly ends. Not all affairs are born from boredom or revenge. Some begin with a ghost from the past. Many women carry emotional attachments from former relationships that were never fully resolved. They may have moved on, married, and built new lives. Yet a small part of their heart still lingers in the past. Sometimes it's a first love that ended abruptly, or a deep emotional connection that circumstances tore apart. When life becomes difficult, or emotionally unfulfilling, that unresolved bond can quietly awaken. This kind of infidelity often begins innocently. A simple text message, a friendly chat, or a reconnection through social media. The woman may tell herself that it's harmless, that she's only catching up with an old friend. But as conversations deepen, so do the emotions. Nostalgia plays a powerful role here. The mind tends to idealize the past, remembering only the excitement, comfort, and warmth, while forgetting the pain that once existed. The old lover becomes a symbol of everything she misses in her current life: passion, understanding, or the feeling of being truly seen. Unlike impulsive affairs driven by desire, these emotional reunions are rooted in sentimentality and longing. The woman doesn't necessarily seek physical pleasure. She seeks emotional safety. When her present relationship feels distant or cold, the memory of someone who once understood her deeply becomes irresistible. It feels like returning home to a version of herself that still felt alive, confident, and desired. The danger lies in how subtle this process can be. Because the relationship starts as emotional rather than physical, it's easy to justify. She might think, "We're just talking," or "It's not cheating if there's no intimacy." But emotional intimacy can be even more powerful than physical contact. Once she begins to confide in her former lover more than her husband, The emotional betrayal has already begun. Eventually, that emotional connection often leads to physical infidelity, not out of lust, but out of a rekindled sense of belonging. From a psychological standpoint, this happens because unresolved relationships leave emotional open loops. The brain constantly seeks closure, and when stress or loneliness resurface, those loops reopen. Reconnecting with someone from the past offers temporary relief. It soothes the old pain and fills the emotional void of the present. Yet, it also creates a dangerous illusion, the belief that love from the past can fix what's broken now. In reality, these revived affairs rarely bring happiness. The woman may soon realize that she's clinging to an idolized memory, not the real person. The past cannot replace the present, and trying to relive it only deepens the dissatisfaction she already feels. What begins as emotional comfort often ends in confusion, guilt, and the loss of trust from both sides. Ultimately, when a past relationship never truly ends, it becomes an emotional trap. The heart lingers in yesterday, while the body lives in today. True healing requires acceptance, acknowledging what once was, letting it rest, and fully committing to the life that exists now. Only by closing the door to unfinished emotions can one prevent the ghosts of the past from haunting the love that still remains. Number 5. The lack of communication and conflict resolution skills. In many relationships, infidelity is not caused by the absence of love, but by the absence of communication. Over time, couples often stop talking about their feelings, desires, and frustrations. The silence that grows between them becomes more dangerous than any argument. For women, who tend to connect emotionally through words and empathy, this silence feels like rejection. When emotional expression is replaced by indifference, they begin to feel invisible. And eventually, they may look for someone who listens. Communication is the lifeblood of intimacy. When it breaks down, emotional distance grows. Many women find themselves in relationships where every conversation turns into a conflict, or worse, where there's no conversation at all. The husband may avoid talking to keep the peace, but that avoidance only deepens the emotional gap. The woman, feeling unheard and unappreciated, begins to suppress her needs rather than risk another argument. Over time, this suppression turns into quiet resentment, and resentment, if ignored, can turn into emotional detachment. At this stage, even a small gesture of understanding from someone else can feel monumental. A coworker who listens, a friend who compliments her, or a stranger who notices her struggles. All these can awaken emotions she thought were gone. The affair, then, becomes a form of emotional escape, rather than a deliberate act of betrayal. It's not about lust. It's about relief. The relief of finally being heard, seen, and valued again. Many women who cheat out of emotional frustration report that they tried to fix things before stepping outside the relationship. They may have attempted to express their feelings, only to be met with defensiveness or dismissal. When communication fails repeatedly, they begin to believe there is no point in trying. In that emotional vacuum, another person's attention becomes intoxicating, not because it's forbidden, but because it feels like oxygen after years of suffocation. Poor conflict resolution skills also play a crucial role. When couples don't know how to manage disagreements, even small issues can spiral into emotional distance. Instead of confronting problems constructively, they avoid them, pretending everything is fine. This pattern creates emotional decay. Love doesn't die suddenly. It fades through neglect. Women, being emotionally intuitive, sense this decay early, but often lack the tools to stop it. And when the emotional disconnect grows too large, Infidelity becomes a symptom of that unspoken collapse. Psychologically, cheating in this context is a misguided attempt to restore balance. It's not about finding someone new, but about rediscovering emotional life. The affair provides what the marriage lacks: communication, affection, empathy, but only temporarily. Eventually, the woman realizes that what she truly craves cannot be found in someone else. It must be rebuilt with honesty, vulnerability, and mutual effort within the relationship she already has. Ultimately, the lack of communication and conflict resolution does not just lead to infidelity. It erodes the very foundation of love. When words disappear, so does understanding. And without understanding, even the strongest love will wither. To prevent betrayal, couples must learn not only to talk, but to listen, to express without blame, and to argue without destroying. Only then can love survive the storms of time and human imperfection. Infidelity is never just about betrayal. It's about the silent pain, the unmet needs, and the emotional distance that often go unnoticed until it's too late. Understanding why people cheat isn't about justifying their actions, but about seeing the human vulnerability beneath them. Love is fragile, and even the strongest relationships can wither when communication fades and emotional connection dies. But awareness is power. When we talk honestly about these uncomfortable truths, we learn how to heal, rebuild trust, and create deeper bonds that last. If this video gave you something to think about, don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Your perspective might help someone else. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support more discussions about love, psychology, and human behavior. Together, let's learn to understand before we judge and grow wiser about the complex world of relationships.